Right now, you're probably convinced that the internet has permanently broken the human brain. You scroll through your feed and see millions of people participating in a mindless TikTok dance, aggressively hoarding toilet paper because of an unverified rumor, or collectively losing their minds over a multi layered conspiracy theory involving corporate fast food. It feels like a uniquely modern affliction, a symptom of algorithms hijacking our short term attention spans. But if you think we used to be a species of calm, rational thinkers before optical fibers showed up, you are deeply, hilariously mistaken. Centuries before anyone could post a video online, entire populations were regularly falling victim to real world, analog viral trends that make our current internet panics look like a corporate board meeting. We just didn't call them viral trends back then. We called them historical anomalies. The mechanism behind this is something scientists call mass psychogenic illness, but you probably know it by its much more dramatic street name, mass hysteria. It is the ultimate invisible glitch in human psychology, and it happens when a group of people collectively develop physical symptoms or behavioral loops with absolutely no biological cause. No bacteria, poison, or physical virus, just a thought that gets lodged in one brain and spreads like a wildfire through a crowded theater. And throughout history, these psychological glitches have produced scenarios so utterly ridiculous that they read like bad fan fiction. Take, for example, a highly specific incident that occurred in a French convent during the Middle Ages. One quiet afternoon, a nun inexplicably began to meow like a cat. Now, in a rational world, the other nuns would have asked her if she was feeling all right, or perhaps suggested she lie down. Instead, their biological software glitch triggered, and within days, almost every single nun in the cloister was meowing in unison for several hours every single day. Imagine being a local villager walking past a stone convent only to hear 50 brides of Christ screaming like stray alley cats at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The neighborhood was so profoundly disturbed by this daily feline chorus that they eventually had to call in the local militia. The soldiers surrounded the convent, brandishing whips, and informed the sisters that they would be beaten if they didn't stop making animal noises. Remarkably, the threat of physical violence instantly cured the psychological condition. The meowing ceased. But why did it happen in the first place? To understand the mechanics, you have to look at the environment. Middle-aged convents were high-stress, deeply isolated pressure cookers of strict discipline, sleep deprivation, and intense religious anxiety. When human minds are subjected to prolonged, inescapable stress, the brain looks for an escape valve. It finds a minor behavioral anomaly, like the one sister making a weird noise, and the surrounding brains copy it automatically through a mechanism called mirror neurons. These are the tiny brain cells that make you yawn when you see someone else yawn. Except in a stressed out environment, sometimes they don't just copy a yawn, they copy a full-blown behavioral breakdown. If you think meowing nuns sounds isolated, history has a much darker, high-velocity version of the exact same glitch, the dancing plague of 1518. It started in the streets of Strasbourg, France, when a woman named Frau Trophea stepped out of her house and simply began to dance. She didn't stop for hours. She didn't stop for days. Within a week, over 30 people had joined her, twitching and spinning in the summer heat without music. By the end of the month, the crowd had grown to 400 people. The local authorities, completely baffled and lacking modern medical knowledge, assumed the dancers just needed to get it out of their systems. Their brilliant solution? They hired professional musicians, cleared a marketplace, and built a wooden stage to encourage more dancing. This was the 16th century equivalent of putting a failing meme on the front page of Reddit. It made it infinitely worse. People began dancing until their feet bled, and eventually dozens of them collapsed and died from strokes, heart attacks, or sheer exhaustion. It wasn't a party, it was a mass neurological short circuit. For centuries, people blamed these events on demonic possession, bad blood, or an alignment of the stars. But under a modern psychological lens, the framework becomes clear. Strasbourg in 1518 was experiencing a massive crisis. Famine, poverty, and a deadly outbreak of syphilis were devastating the population. The psychological tension was unbearable. Frau Trophäa's public breakdown acted as a physical manifestation of that collective trauma. Once the first few people joined, the social contagion took over. It became an involuntary loop. The victims didn't want to dance. Their brains were literally forcing their bodies to move to escape the underlying psychological terror. Which brings us right back to the modern device currently sitting in your palm. We look back at historical mass hysteria with a sense of intellectual superiority. We laugh at the idea of peasants being terrified into meowing or dancing themselves to death. But the internet didn't cure mass psychogenic loops, it just gave them an upgrade from dial-up to fiber optic. Today, we don't need to live in an isolated French convent to experience a closed communication loop. We have online echo chambers. We don't need a physical marketplace in Strasbourg to watch a behavioral contagion spread. We have algorithmic feeds specifically designed to highlight whatever makes us angry, anxious, or terrified. When a digital rumor spreads that causes thousands of people to storm a grocery store or target an innocent person based on a tweet, that isn't a new human behavior. That's just the dancing plague of 1518 running on a faster operating system. The terrifying reality of human biology is that our brains are inherently social organs. We are hardwired to download the emotional states of the people around us to survive. It keeps us cohesive as a tribe, but it also makes us profoundly vulnerable to collective madness. Whether it's a 14th century nun meowing into the void, a medieval peasant collapsing on a dance floor, or a modern user doomscrolling themselves into a panic attack over a piece of clickbait media, the code remains exactly the same. Right now, you are probably looking at a tiny screen consuming a masterpiece of modern digital distribution. Just try to remember that your brain is still a primitive piece of hardware, and if you feel a sudden overwhelming urge to start meowing with your coworkers tomorrow, you might want to log off for a little while.